all of you kind of move for either a sector or a problem statement. But now that you guys are working abroad, what are the benefits of working abroad? Like, what are the differences in your experience working in India versus working abroad? Gokul, you can start.
What I see as benefit are basically the diversity of cultures that you work with. In India, all said and done, the mindset, the thought process, the way of working is not very different among people. Like, for example, in my team, I have people from Brazil, Ukraine, Finland itself, some British people, and the way they think about life, the way they think about work, and how those cultures sort of come together and you still generate output. Learning that has been like super critical. And secondly, India is a pretty hard charging culture for better and for worse. But Europe is teaching me. I'm relatively new to Europe. I've been there only 6 months. But Europe is teaching me to sort of get the outcomes without being brash or sort of like burning people out. And I think that's going to be super valuable. If I say come back to India, maybe like 5 years, 7 years later, and I run a team here, I'll hopefully have learned how to get stellar outputs without burning the people out in the process. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to the most, and that's something that's already happening.
What about you, Vivek?
It depends on what stage in your career you are. For example, I think if in early stages, first jobber, I definitely think that in some markets, like in US and some developed markets, quality of life from day one might be better than what India has to offer. As you rise in your career, I think that gap starts to diminish.
Yes.
And after a point, I would argue quality of life is better in India. If you are doing well, have have created some amount of wealth for yourself, then the benefits that India can give, probably many other countries can't replicate. So I think depends really on where you are in your life. Even in terms of compensation, and you highlighted that yourself, right? That the gap is reducing, and now, in fact, many would argue wealth creation opportunities in India. Most companies are being valued at 100x multiple, right? I mean,
Yes.
if you are in the startup ecosystem in India today, the wealth creation opportunity could be dramatically more. I think the third point that Gokul was mentioning, that I agree. I think the mindset in India people are more hungry, and that leads to working long hours. People are very ambitious. Everyone wants to shine out, and I don't think it's really about. And you can disagree, but I don't think it's really about finding a path to get the outcome in the limited hours. It's just a mindset issue. Yes, there is work-life balance in some markets outside India, but I think for the near future, I think India and China, I think that extreme long work hour culture, I don't think is going away soon. Again, it should not generalize. There are companies, I have been at companies who obsess over providing that, having employee empathy and providing that work-life balance and caring for everyone around you and not pushing everyone. And number of hours is not really a metric we look at. But yeah, I think still there is a slightly life is a little harder in India.
If somebody is considering wanting to move abroad, what are some of the benefits in the short term and what are the benefits in the long term? Assuming the person I'm talking about, the audience I'm talking about, is people that are fairly early in their careers.
I do think that some markets are in a phase-wise a little ahead of India. Like whichever sector we look at, right? Like if you talk about Internet of Things, it's been around in US for 5 years. It may come to India soon. If you talk about 5G, like any tech change, I think India has a slight lag. So one clear benefit of working outside India is you become a lot more marketable. Like personally, when I came back to India, almost every job that I got, I had been there, done that. Like I'd already built the exact same product and already scaled it, and it was now happening in it. That wave had now come to India. So I think that could be one edge that one could get theoretically by working outside. Second could, of course, be quality of, probably product people have been around, product companies have been around maybe for 10, 12, 15 years in India. Product companies, for example, Bay Area have been around for 20, 25 years. So you see a lot of very seasoned talent and mentors from whom you can learn. So yeah, there could be some benefits of being in certain developed markets.
Apurva, what about you?
It's an interesting question. And generally what happens, I think two things happen when you decide to work abroad. One is you're most likely going to join a large company while you're moving abroad. And that's like a dynamics we don't talk as much about. Reason being, they're likely to pick you up. Like they can afford paying for your visa, bringing you in. So you're likely to move to a larger company, which essentially like also aids the entire work-life balance dynamics, the diversity dynamics, which is not just to do with like moving abroad. Like for most of us, moving abroad
Great point.
means moving to a very large company, and it comes with its own pros, cons, and some of which is, like it will go back to how you see your own personal growth. And the reason is because I moved from very startup kind of environment to a large company. There are differences. Like you said, I was running Interact and I was the business lead for Interact. Like I started the product as it scaled. I had the opportunity of setting up all teams, right? And this was all in like span of 8 months. We went from idea to like one of the fastest growing products in company's history. And Geo's our investor who's looking to now take this, like raise funds for this product separately. Which is a very different trajectory from what, let's say, my products at WhatsApp will do, the outlook they have, and what's like our biggest problem here. And all of that comes with like moving abroad to a larger company. But that was an important thing that I valued, that, hey, I don't know about this. How do things work at scale? Something I grew from zero to a scalable business in 8 months versus something, if I launch this button, 2 billion people are going to click on this in next 30 days, right?
Yes.
That's a very different mindset to have. And it's just mind blowing that whatever we think is like not used on WhatsApp is still used by 100 million people, right? That is like one thing that will happen when you move to global companies, and it changes your perspective. And at least for me, that was like worth a lot more, at least in my journey as a PM, to experience than other things. Obviously, moving here, the work-life balance dynamic like has been amazing to watch. Like being a woman in India, I'd always been conscious of, how does raising a family with career works. And all of those barriers like just dropped for me here. I see my colleagues having 3 kids, thinking about a 4th kid, spending time with them. And one of the interesting things here is if your maternity leave is let's say 6 months long, your paternity leave is also 5 months long, right? So it's an equal gap for both parents. So it doesn't put like a particular parent at a different, pedestal than the other gender, which might sound trivial, but for me was definitely like, quite life-changing in that sense. Not something I looked forward to coming here, but these are these dynamics that when you go to different culture, and I think very, very true for Europe, it's not even as true for America or even Southeast Asia. This is very, very specific about Europe. And I know this is like an inflection point for me as how I would view my life. Though I came for the scale of WhatsApp, what I could build here, things I could change here. I think the biggest thing that I'm actually gaining out of this is like my outlook towards life, and seeing like, I think both Vivek and Gokul mentioned just the diversity that comes in. It's very hard to say what that means, but like when one person on your team is from Brazil, one person is from Ukraine, one person is French, one person is Indian, you learn very different things.